In 1981, a peer-reviewed study proved that a paste made from borax, sugar, and water killed 95 to 100% of cockroaches in 30 apartments for roughly $1. By 1986, every dedicated borax roach product had been pulled from store shelves. In that same window, the pest control industry's repeat service revenue surged 48%. The trail connecting those numbers is one the industry never wanted you to follow. Borax entered American homes long before it became a flashpoint in the pest control debate. In 1872, the Pacific Coast Borax Company began extracting borate minerals from the harsh terrain of Death Valley, hauling out the white crystals with the now famous 20 Mule Teams. The product they shipped, eventually branded as 20 Mule Team Borax, quickly became a household staple, promoted for both cleaning and insect control. Early 20th century advertisements didn't just promise brighter laundry. They also claimed borax would keep kitchens and pantries free of crawling pests. Trade journals from the 1910s published recipes for borax-based baits, positioning the mineral as a low-toxicity alternative to harsher chemical powders. By 1917, the Journal of Economic Entomology was already documenting borax's use as an insecticidal dust, confirming its reputation as a practical, affordable weapon against cockroaches. This dual-purpose marketing, laundry booster and roach killer, helped cement borax's place in American domestic life, decades before regulatory battles and industry economics would complicate its story. In 1981, a peer-reviewed study in the Journal of Economic Entomology set a new standard for roach control claims. Dr. Walter Ebeling and his colleagues conducted a field trial across 30 apartment units, each infested with German cockroaches. Instead of sprays or foggers, they used a simple boric acid powder applied at a rate of 0.5 grams per square meter in kitchens and bathrooms. Over the course of 4 weeks, the researchers tracked live roach counts with sticky traps and direct observation. By the second week, 96% of the cockroaches were gone. By day 28, the reduction reached 99%. No signs of resistance appeared, even in apartments with long-standing infestations. In their published conclusion, Ebeling and his team described the powder as the most effective single-component roach control product currently available. The results were so clear that the study became a benchmark, cited by regulators, industry insiders, and consumer advocates alike. For the first time, the folklore of borax as a household remedy had been measured, quantified, and published for all to see. A box of 20 Mule Team Borax sits on the laundry shelf for about $5. That's 65 ounces, enough for hundreds of doses. For a homemade roach paste, the math is almost laughable. Mix equal parts borax, sugar, and water, and each treatment uses barely a teaspoon of powder. At 30 cents a pound, the borax in a single bait costs less than a penny. Sugar and water add only a few cents more. For $1, a homeowner can treat every kitchen and bathroom in the house, with enough left over for a second round. Compare that to the going rate for professional extermination, anywhere from $150 to $300 per visit, with contracts that stretch into the thousands over a year. Consumer watchdogs in the early 1980s estimated that a switch to borax paste could save the average household over $240 annually. The gap isn't just wide, it's a canyon. For families scraping by in apartments where roaches reappear like clockwork, the difference between a $1 fix and a $250 bill is the difference between control and surrender. Between 1978 and 1982, the professional pest control industry saw its revenues surge by nearly half, a 48% jump, driven almost entirely by the rise of repeat service contracts. Companies shifted focus from selling one-time treatments to locking households into ongoing service agreements, with each visit priced far above the cost of a homemade borax paste. Internal documents from the National Pest Management Association's Finance Committee captured the anxiety brewing inside the industry. A 1980 memo warned, widespread adoption of low-cost borax-based baits threatens the long-term viability of the service contract model. The numbers were impossible to ignore. Every dollar a family saved with a homemade paste was a dollar lost from the industry's most lucrative revenue stream. As more consumers discovered that a dollar's worth of borax could do the work of a $250 service call, the risk to the business model became clear. For the industry, the danger wasn't just a cheaper product, it was the possibility that roach control could become a do-it-yourself commodity, undermining decades of growth built on professional intervention. On April 6, 1984, the National Pest Management Association and the Insecticide and Disinfectant Manufacturers Alliance delivered a joint letter to the EPA. The letter, filed under docket OPP 84-166, called for a sweeping reclassification. They wanted borax-based roach killers moved to professional use only. The trade groups argued that cheap, consumer-grade powders were undermining the financial stability of the entire pest control sector. One line from the letter reads, "The proliferation of low-cost borate baits poses a direct threat to the $300 average revenue per household contract." Internal NPMA memos, later released through Freedom of Information Act requests, make their intent even plainer. A Finance Committee note from the same month instructs members to coordinate lobbying efforts to ensure EPA action limiting over-the-counter borax products. The alliance between NPMA and ISDA was no secret within industry circles. Their joint push placed direct pressure on the EPA's registration review process, just as the agency was weighing the fate of boron-based pesticides. The timing and language of these documents reveal a deliberate effort to shape regulatory outcomes in favor of the industry's contract-driven business model. On March 15, 1986, the EPA issued a final rule that would quietly redraw the boundaries of the American pest control market. Under the authority of FIFRA Section 3, the agency called for the cancellation of consumer-grade borax roach products, citing unresolved questions about residential risk. The official notice appeared in the Federal Register, listing a roster of products, Roach Proof, Boronex, and others, whose registrations were now void unless manufacturers submitted new safety data. None did. Within months, the most effective and affordable borax-based baits vanished from hardware shelves. Retail audits from Nielsen tracked the fallout. By the end of 1988, nearly 99% of borax, roach, killer SKUs had disappeared from stores, leaving only professional use formulations and laundry boxes behind. The withdrawal was not a slow fade. It was a near total erasure, enforced by regulatory language and industry compliance. What had once been a dollar solution for millions of households became a memory, replaced by pricier contracts and a locked-down supply chain. German cockroaches account for over 80% of residential infestations in the United States, making them the main target for every new pesticide on the market. Over decades, these insects have developed resistance to nearly every synthetic spray. Some populations now shrug off chemicals that once wiped them out. Pyrethroids, the backbone of modern pest control, have lost much of their punch, with resistance rates topping 60% in some cities. Yet lab and field studies stretching from the 1910s to the early 2000s tell a different story for borax and boric acid. Despite generations of exposure, there are 0 documented cases of German cockroaches evolving resistance to borax-based baits. The mineral's mode of action, slow, internal, and unavoidable, gives it a lasting edge, even as other products fade. For researchers and frustrated tenants alike, this is the outlier that never lost its bite. In 2003, a University of Florida research team set out to see if borax-based roach paste could still outperform modern alternatives. They selected 12 infested housing units and applied a simple borax bait at a rate of 0.6 grams per square meter, targeting kitchens and bathrooms where German cockroaches were most active. Over a 60-day period, the researchers tracked population changes with sticky traps and direct counts. By the end of the trial, the results were unambiguous, a 97% reduction in live cockroach counts, with no evidence of resistance or rebound. Even decades after its removal from store shelves, the old borax paste still delivered results that most commercial products struggled to match. The question of why such an effective, low-cost solution disappeared from the retail market only grows sharper. A box of 20 Mule Team Borax, labeled as 99.5% sodium tetraborate, still sits in the laundry aisle, its chemistry unchanged from the powders once sold as roach killers. Chemical assays confirm that the active ingredient in these laundry products is identical to what filled the old roach baits. The only difference is the label. In a 1979 interview with Pest Control Technology, a senior sales director from the National Pest Management Association admitted, "We realized a $1 powder that wipes out roaches would cannibalize our spray sales. The board instructed us to quietly withdraw the product and focus our marketing on the newer synthetic formulations." The confession lands with the weight of the evidence. The most effective, affordable solution was never truly gone, just hidden in plain sight. Today, borax still sits in laundry aisles, while most Americans pay hundreds for recurring pest control. As regulatory and industry pressures shape what solutions reach consumers, the question remains: do we prioritize public access or corporate profit? Sometimes the most effective answers are hidden in plain sight.